Good evening and welcome to the August 10th meeting of the Conservation Commission of Newmarket. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we are without our regular staff person to take minutes tonight. So again, just ask that everyone speak clearly into the microphone and it'll be transcribed from the broadcast. So Drew is not here tonight and I'm standing in his stead. And so we'll just go around and to do attendance, and if everyone could just clearly state their name and the group they're representing. Start down here, please.
Casey Finch, representative with the Town Council.
Anne LaFortune, Conservation Commission.
I'm Julia Sinclair, Conservation Commission alternate.
Patrick Reynolds, Conservation Commission Vice Chair.
Jeff Goldnoff, Conservation Commission.
Rosie Ann Quox, Planning Board Rep.
Mary Ann Hannigan, Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So I don't see any members of the public here. Oh, take that back. Do we need to appoint Julia?
Hi.
Okay. Okay. So I will propose that we appoint Julia tonight to stand in for Drew.
Am I allowed to second that?
I don't think we have to vote.
Okay.
We just, the chair can
Awesome.
go ahead and do that. Okay.
Got it. Thanks.
And Drew's
Mary?
excused, right?
And Drew's excused, yes. Drew Kefeber contacted us prior and told us he was unable to attend tonight. And Mary Ann's here, so could you just state, we don't have a minutes taker tonight, so we're just introducing our...
verbal minutes.
Yeah.
My name's Andrea Sellers. I'm Conservation Commission member and treasurer.
Thank you. Okay.
Apologize for being late.
That's okay. So, again, does not appear we have any public members here for public comments at this time. And we do not have minutes, is my understanding, from last month because of the illness that Sue has. So we'll get those as soon as she finishes them. And let's go on to the treasurer's report.
I don't have that report because haven't had time to look at the thing.
Would you like to see
Yes.
a
I'm
copy
trying
that
to
was
open it right
provided
now.
to us, Andrew?
Thank you so much. Okay.
While she's looking at that, Patrick, because it's on the agenda, do you need a motion to continue the approval of the minutes to the next conservation meeting?
We haven't in the past.
You don't do that, okay.
Procedurally, might be correct, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know traditionally we haven't.
It's a good question, Roseanne, and if we're incorrect in not doing that, then we should probably address that at the next meeting.
This is different than before.
I think there's a sheet that we usually get that's not there.
Yeah, this is different.
Usually 2 sheets.
Probably know what's going to be coming up.
Do you get one of those each month, a treasurer's report, a
Mhm.
different one each month?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Does it change that often to merit doing that?
It changes each month. There's usually something that happens
Oh,
in the
okay.
course of the month.
Okay.
Either, well, sometimes we get a land use change
Tax, yeah.
tax
Okay.
deposited. Sometimes we expend a little money here or
Yeah.
there. Interest gets deposited.
Yeah, it looks like what I've got is the Schottmeyer Park donations log, which shows $129,000 roughly.
Is it? It's not less than that now.
Possibly.
I think.
This is just the donation sheet.
Yeah, that might be the balance sheet. I think because we spent 60 and change.
Oh yeah, expenses 60 and change. The balance is now $74,734. And this contracted services, that must be Sue. $42.49. Yeah, payroll, Jen.
Yep, absolutely. Is there any questions?
I had that one question last month. I'm not sure if it was that back and forth and back and forth, and so maybe Drew was going to ask. It doesn't show up on this one, so maybe it was just an error and they took it out.
Okay.
But I don't think, like I said, I think there's a few sheets that we didn't have.
Yeah. There's the one that's the
The
year-to-date.
overall account,
Yeah.
year-to-date. Did Carol send an email?
Yeah, I just haven't had time to look at it. She sent it maybe Tuesday. Monday, maybe.
Make a request that you forward that on.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I thought everybody got it.
No, it
No.
just goes to the
Okay.
treasurer usually.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee and subcommittee reports. Casey, should we start with the town council?
Sure. Town council met once in July, on July 19th. I was out of town, so I didn't attend that meeting, but it was mainly procedural stuff. There'll be a lot more information following our next meeting that I can bring.
Okay. And Roseanne?
Planning board, we had a planning board meeting Tuesday, and Diane had mentioned for a stormwater regulations update, which is what Drew had down here for information. The town has received a technical assistance grant under the Setting Sail program, that's the name of the stormwater program, to update the town's stormwater regs, which were developed in 2010. A subcommittee of the planning board will be working with the town's planning staff, Stratford Regional Planning Commission, and the UNH Stormwater Center to fine-tune the town's stormwater regs using a model that was recently drafted by the Southeast Watershed Alliance. The update will reflect state-of-the-art thinking about stormwater, new technologies, and will be consistent with what is being done in other communities in the coastal watershed. This will be a 6-month project starting the end of August. The planning board is looking for a volunteer from the Conservation Commission to assist in this effort. The project tasks include regulatory audit of existing regulations, preparation of draft regulations, presenting the draft to the planning board and the public, preparation of outreach materials to educate the public about stormwater management, ultimately the adoption of the regulations. This effort is in support to the town's requirements under the EPA MS4 program of the Clean Water Act. The Setting Sail program is funded by NOAA and also implements the recommendations of the Coastal Risk and Hazards Commission's final report. So I can get a copy of this to the recording secretary, so she'll have it verbatim. And any questions on that? That's a mouthful.
I did volunteer to help on
Oh,
that
good.
committee. Do you know when that first meeting in August is?
No, she said the end of August, I think.
Okay.
I could email her and ask her to let you know. She knows you volunteered?
I passed my name on to Drew. I don't know if Diane, when you're saying she, you're referring to Diane?
Diane, the town planner,
I
yeah.
could reach out to her.
Okay,
I'll give her a call and just let her know.
okay, and just let her know that you did volunteer, just in case Drew didn't get a
Yeah.
chance to do that. Okay. And then on Shanda Park, I said I'd get some information. Diane was on vacation this week, and we've been very busy with our new gardening group. But Shanda Park for the what was it I wrote in the bullet points? Oh, the designation of the park. Shanda Park received money initially in the early 1980s for acquisition of this land under the Land and Water Conservation Program of the National Park Service. And under NPS regs, if the amount of acreage of land protected under that program is reduced, then the town has to make up for it. They've got to mitigate it somewhere else in town. So we need to be mindful that we don't reduce the size of the park depending on what type of wall, a retaining wall we're going to replace or repair, or else the town will have to incur some of the cost to mitigate to replace the land. So that's what I found out so far. Alrighty, so that is the designation and under the National Park Service. So depending on what we deems necessary to put the riprap. And I also called Judy Ryan, and I got the name of the individual who did the riprap for, that's Rivermore Landing, right? There's so many downtown businesses with river in it. So I have that at home if needed to get in touch with that gentleman to, he did that sloped riprap. He
Okay.
didn't do the solid, straight-face retaining walls. So I also have that name and number. All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you like me to do Shopmire Park Committee? I almost feel like I should just always do it under committee and subcommittee, because I'm
Sure.
it's kind
Sure.
of a subcommittee.
Yeah,
more or less, but-
absolutely.
Okay, so we did meet, and there were a couple of things that, so I did send out kind of proofs of the proposed sign. And did people see them? I brought some prints in case no one saw them.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Four of them. So, oh, I know, it's okay, it's okay. The kind of the question is, I'm not gonna tell you what the other members of that committee said for what they think is the better of the two designs, but I don't know if
I like the first one.
the 3 lines.
Yeah, 3 lines. It's easier to read.
Yeah, I do too.
Yep.
Okay. That is the general consensus of that committee as well. Okay, so 3 lines it is. Both, because it's kind of, it's gonna be the face of the park more or less, but, so the size too, I don't know if any of you have gone and looked at the Heron Point sign. That is the size. I don't know if you think that's, so did you see, I don't know if you've been by where the park entrance is there lately, there's a granite post right near the road. That granite post is what's gonna be fixed to with, I don't remember who in town, somebody donated their time in town to make a wrought iron hanger for that, so the sign will have the 2
Oh, that'll be
hangers on the
nice.
side, and it'll hang off a little chain or something. So, I think 18 by 24 is kind of appropriate for the size post. I wouldn't want to make it much bigger without putting a second post and putting it between them or something like that, so. Okay, so 3 lines, that's probably. So, another question that's come up, and that would tie into, I guess, this. So that's another thing that happened since our last meeting, actually, is all the stone posts were installed. So there are stone posts placed along the, just inside the property line, so they're not on the property line between the church's property and the neighbor to the north, where the long driveway is and the adjacent house. They're just inside the church property, so just inside our easement. And so those were installed, and also the ones at the corners of the easement heading towards kind of the bowling alley behind where the house is up there. So the stone posts are in. The other thing that we've been discussing a lot is the kind of the entrance. So Dick Lord of the Lamprey River Advisory Committee, he it's kind of suggested, and I think this is kind of the route we might go, instead of a big full kiosk, when you pull in, kind of blocking like the view of the river, and from that little high area is kind of a, like a post and then an angled sign.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of as you come out of the entrance and into the park itself, you'll see this instead of this big, huge obstruction, because it's kind of like it's a decent view across the field towards the river there, so.
You don't want to obstruct that.
Yeah, exactly, so to not obstruct it with a big roof So that was very interesting idea, and I think we pretty much all agreed. I don't know if you'll have any input on that, or would like to see something different.
No, sounds like a good idea.
I have a question about the sign. Is the sign going to be facing 108, or is it going to be hung sideways?
It's a two-sided sign.
Two-sided.
And hung
beautiful.
sideways.
So you
Yeah,
can
with
read it
an
going
arrow.
both ways.
Yes.
Super.
Yeah. We didn't put an arrow on this one. That's the
No.
difference between, the Heron Point one has an arrow because it's down the road. This one's right on the street, so. It also saves space with a long name. So, kiosk, and then there's something else I was gonna bring up this time.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It'll come back to me in a second. So, oh geez, what was it? So anyway, okay, I'll move on to this. So I did send around some signs. Elizabeth Dudley, Landscape Architecture, has donated her time to help us kind of design the entrance as you come into the park. There's always been talk of kind of like a seating area there, maybe a little garden. And originally the thought, which we, we're still in discussions trying to figure out what to do right there. So originally the thought was there are a couple of stone benches put there, which we have already appropriated money for. The stone benches with a nice back.
Mm.
They're quite nice benches. And a little garden area. And then Elizabeth has designed, she worked with Terry Schottmeyer out on Chris's Widow on the property, looking at it, trying to come up with like a nice kind of layout. And came up with like a design of kind of basically, I don't know if you saw the PDF that I sent out, but like an oval, more or less. And the portion of the oval adjacent to the parking lot would be like a sitting bench. So it might be like 18 inches tall, like a wall. And the land kind of slopes away, and then, the idea is that it might get a little taller as you go around, and then we'll have a break to get out into the field, and the trail down to the park, to the water. So it was very expensive. There were a lot of plantings in the initial design. It was extremely expensive. It was out of our budget, more or less. And so we brainstormed it at our last meeting, and kind of what we came up with was potentially the shape of almost like a crescent, like a C kind of shape. So the side facing the river wouldn't have any wall at all. It would just be a grass slope, and then in the benches themselves, instead of being a separate bench, the capstone of the sitting wall would be two spots that were engraved memorial seats, more or less, benches without backs, but just capstone seats. It sounds very nice. So, and then a lot less plantings. There was a larger garden area, and kind of the vision seemed like coming out of the last meeting was that it would be just basically take the grass that's there, 'cause it's just a lawn, just basically leave the grass how it is and cut the wall into the grass, so it's almost like the stone wall just coming up out of the grass, and then two walkways down to it, and maybe some plantings in between, but a couple of trees that Terry wanted kind of incorporated. So we kind of got something similar to that back. It shows that, she shows a full oval instead of the C shape, so I think there's still a little more work to do. But one thing that, looking at this, to think for the Conservation Commission to seriously consider is a long-term expenditure of upkeep of it. We know we have, a stone wall and stuff like that at Shanda Park, which needs repair. Not just the seawall, but the flagstone wall, the fieldstone wall that's built there, needs repair. So, and then also maintenance potentially of if there's a, kind of a complicated garden or something like that there. So the long-term cost of that, and then associated with that, the committee feels very strongly to leave the Conservation Commission an endowment to help pay for the. So the more you spend on this, which would be our big money soak, would be the less you get in an endowment to actually take care of it. So if you build something more complicated that costs more to take care of, you have less money to take care of it. You build something a little less complicated. So, and we're trying really hard not to burden the town, with a long-term cost.
Well, it's our responsibility to maintain this garden then, or?
The whole park, yeah, the
Right,
park,
okay.
yeah. Would be-
Including mowing and everything else?
Yep. Just like any other conservation property, just like Wigan Farm, just like anything that we get done over at the Scastic Boys.
Can I look at?
Yes.
Let me. Should
Yeah,
I
we can. I
move
only
it?
have one large copy. I
I'm
thought on
sorry.
11 by 17 it'd be hard to see.
Is it gonna be something that's just gonna be a trail just mowed to the water?
Yes.
And just
And then we'll
like
add-
hayed
we'll-
once or twice a year, but not every week
It's
mowed?
only, yeah, we put a stipulation that it shall be done twice a year. We didn't want it done more. We
Mhm.
wanted it done as little as possible.
Yeah.
And they're like, you gotta do it at least twice a year, so. Because, for nesting birds and stuff like that. So when we finally take over management of it, we need to hire someone to help us develop a management plan for the property, like would someone like Ellen
Mhm.
Snyder that we'd kind of seek to help us develop that plan. So hopefully there's money that's passed on as well to help pay for that cost. And so they're kind of wondering what we feel like we need for money's left over to take care of it, and I don't really know. And one other thing we're gonna probably end up having to pay for is, so if you've seen the status of the parking lot as it is right now, it's not like finished yet. And so the idea was to wait until whatever we do with the garden area was done and then top coat that driveway with some some finer crushed stone or whatever to make it kind of smooth. We may have to pay for that stone. Everything out there that's been done so far to the driveway has been done for free. Everyone's donated a significant amount of time and effort and money into putting that together. So I honestly don't really know how much money it would take.
It's hard to say
create
at
a
this
farm.
time until we know what is gonna be existing there.
Right, and I know that, like, the Southeast Land Trust on Bald Hill did not ask us for very much money. It was like $3,500 or something like that for perpetual taking care of it, but that's just a kiosk and trails. There's no other, there's no mowing, there's mostly volunteer work, so I don't really know what the cost of something like this would be to maintain.
Yeah, I think, I like your point of maybe less on the formal setting up of a garden, and so we do have more, because the other thing you haven't mentioned, which I know they're very keen to do, is have a docking
That was
system.
what I was gonna
And
actually
that
mention
that
before.
is also going to have maintenance costs, and that could be quite significant,
I
so.
think I brought that number, was it $750 a year?
Yeah.
To put it in and take it out.
And then eventually, if it had to be replaced or repaired or anything, and I think if I like the idea of some benches and a place to sit and overlook and be there and enjoy the spot, but maybe not develop a lot of gardening that requires maintenance. But if there was a group that was interested in doing a volunteer garden, I would be willing to provide them a space, or suggest that we could provide them a space to do that. I know there is a volunteer gardening group now in Newmarket.
I think they were approached, and I think that
That group exists?
it was that they were not in, it's another area to take care of, and that the time and people might not be there to do it. So it was more or less.
Well, we are garnishing more members, which is very.
I'm
very-
interested.
Yeah, I mean, we do have, the new group is called Blooming Newmarket. A couple of questions. You said the docking system costs $750 a year to take in and out. Is it gonna be, do you have to pay extra for storage, or is it gonna be stored on site?
No, it would be stored on site. That was an estimate.
What's the amount raised that you've gotten so far?
I think there's $70,000 left,
70,000 left.
or something like that, 67.
And after the plants that you've chosen, and the hardscape, and the benches, and the wall, what do you expect to have left? Because I think Ellen would probably be the one, through her land management, to let us know how much we would need in order to take care of the property and mow yearly, but also how much is Ellen gonna charge to do her work?
Right. Well, her cost to do Wigan Farm management plan, to rewrite or to review, like, a fair amount of work.
Mhm.
That was $2,000.
Yeah, ours.
And that was just a rewrite, it wasn't started from, it wasn't.
But that
Right,
was
that's
a
very
correct.
complicated.
That's,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
much
more-
more
Very
complicated property, I would say,
Okay.
than what we're facing.
Yeah, far
in
more.
that part.
Because I know when I was
Take a-
talking to Richie Sheldon about the design, and he mentioned that Elizabeth was gonna do it, I said, it's very open out there. I said, whatever you put, the deer, you're just giving them a smorgasbord,
Yeah,
and they're just gonna eat everything.
yeah.
Absolutely, so I would rather go with what Jeff said, just the grass, and not have, maybe a couple of containers, but then you'd need someone to go water them on it, like, we have our granite planter here in the Arbor Park, and we have a schedule, someone waters it every day. So, I mean, I could mention, and depending on the size of the park, what kind of plants, what kind of maintenance those plants need, our group might,
There's the
Just-
list on that big sheet that.
yeah, might decide that it's something that we could take on, because we do have additional membership.
But we shouldn't assume, that's, I agree, we shouldn't
Exactly.
assume, if it turned out there was a group that was interested, that could be an opportunity for them, but
Mhm.
otherwise, I think keeping it natural, which also I think
Fits better into
fits
the,
better with what
The
the
environment.
Shopmeyers
yep,
had
envision.
sort of envisioned a little bit, you know,
You can
is
always make
better.
a garden bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think
Exactly.
starting small.
You could even start with grass until you have some that approaches.
Yeah, some of those
us.
are natural, naturalizing things that she's got in
Grass,
there.
or you could
herbs.
do some wildflower seed, maybe next spring or something like that, and
Are you gonna be putting in the trees?
I personally think the trees are a good idea.
So do I,
too.
yeah.
A couple of.
So they'll
small-
have to be, they'll have to be maintained for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Are they
they'll
going
have
to be
get rid
placed
of
so
it.
that they'll have shade where the bench areas are?
That,
so
I
you-
think that's kind of the idea.
Okay, good.
Is that you're creating.
Yeah.
There's 3 trees, or originally the idea was that there would be 3 trees that would be there's a big existing tree out here that doesn't make it. There's a existing crab apple tree.
apple tree, I saw
Right
that
in
in the
here somewhere.
Yeah, I
legend.
think it's not a crab apple.
Or
It
an
says-
apple.
It just said
Yeah.
apple,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's an existing apple in here somewhere, and then they're gonna plant another tree here.
Oh, good.
And so I was all for the trees, and I like the idea that 2 paths
Yes.
coming into it, and
Mm.
the idea of the oval. I like the idea of a crescent more than an oval personally.
Mhm.
I know it would be a lot less expensive and a lot less intrusive.
Yeah.
To create, because if you're gonna, I think she's proposing to make a very gently sloping level spot, because Amy Gigande from the Parks, the Recreation Department, is part of the committee as well, and she plans on using this property, obviously, to help access the river. They're gonna put kayak racks down there by the river and stuff, so she plans on using it, and this would be like a spot where they could like talk to the kids in the camp and stuff like that. But I personally think that if it's just the plain grass that's there, even as sloping, it'd be kind of, I think it sounds like it, I mean, it seems in my mind it would look kind of neat to be like a open shape, open to the thing, and
Yeah.
kids could sit around it,
More
and you could
natural.
stand down
Yeah.
towards the river
Yeah.
and talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
And then,
So how much seating is there gonna be in the oval? Like, if you were to say a number of people, is it,
I don't know, it was much bigger before, so I don't know.
I mean, was there some reason why they
15.
wanted to have that much seating there? Was there a thought that they would
Well,
use
well,
it to
part-
have people speak to other people or something like that?
Possibly, or, it's like having 2 benches. It's more, you can, the idea was that the entire top of the wall would be like a capstone that you could sit on, and 2 portions would be memorial benches instead of the stone benches. And then you kind of have people can allow some separation as well, and not be like, because you could do no wall, right, and just put 2 benches out there. And you have seating for potentially just 2 people, because 2 people might not want to sit together on one bench, you know what I mean?
Right.
But if you have like 3 groups of people, then it's just more seating, I guess,
What-
and kind of like a memorial space almost that you enter. Because the idea, I think, originally was that there'd be like a little garden you'd sit in. So it developed into that idea, and the thought was, yes, that Amy might have a group of, say, 12 kids down there to go kayaking. or you could have a speaker out there too, sure. But yeah, that was, mentioned, but I don't know.
No picnic tables or anything for people to take a lunch down?
Oh, that would be nice down
Yeah,
closer to the
Picnic
river.
tables,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
they do that down at Chanda Park now.
Right.
There's somebody there all the time.
Yep.
It's
Yes,
just, they
yes.
really use them.
Uh-huh.
I think the idea, we have not discussed putting picnic tables out there at all.
And is this gonna be all stone all through here? Is there gonna be a
I think the idea would be
hardscape?
like a cinder path, stone stabilized path right here. See, my thought was that you have two paths down, and then this would just be grass, and this would be grass, and then this would be open from here to here. There
Yeah.
would be no wall here, and
No.
the grass that's there currently would just run up to this wall.
Yep.
So you're basically just cutting the shape of the wall into the existing ground.
And she's putting all plants on the inside.
Yeah, because this is a greatly reduced scale. It was plants all out
Right.
here and all out here.
It-
And then we had discussed having just maybe some grasses or plants in there, but
Where's the view to the water from, is this the view here?
the river's here.
The river's
Yeah,
here.
we twisted, one other thing we did is it was this way, but there's a house right here.
Yeah.
If we angled it this way a little bit, you're looking more at the woods
Okay,
and the river.
And was 108? I'm so
It's like
bad
r-
with
it's like
maps.
right here.
Oh, that map.
I am like lost with company maps.
It's probably right here.
Because where all this planting is and the maintenance you're gonna need for it, I would rather see hardscape put in here, and some benches and some picnic tables. It's gonna be more, the public's gonna get more use out of that than trying to find people to take care of your gardens. But I would love to have just a nice hardscape like they do down at Chanda Park, and you can put picnic tables, because if you put those capstones on top of the wall, what kind of wall is it, a dry set wall or precast cement wall? Because if you have people sitting on that all the time, and it's a
It's
loose
supposed to be a wall specifically designed
to sit on,
stone seat wall.
a
Yeah,
stone
it's-
seat wall.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
wall for sitting specifically.
Yeah,
So it is like a big stone bench.
right there. And basically, if the view is this way, you're gonna be sitting on the bench facing,
No, your feet go here.
your feet go here, okay?
Yeah. So you're sitting on the bench facing the wall,
Okay.
facing the river.
Facing the river.
Yeah.
But I think if you had hardscape in here, instead of putting all the money into plants, to put some hardscape there, do the trees, and put benches and picnic tables. The public
You
would
can
get
always
a lot.
expand with flowers as
Yeah,
time
yeah,
goes on.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's their timetable to try and get this decided?
Our next meeting is not scheduled yet.
Okay. Would it make sense to hear more? Do they wanna come and tell us more about it? And we could even
What-
arrange to have a plan projected? Or, I mean, I just feel like I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, I guess,
Like,
in terms of why they wanna do what they want to do. That would help inform me if I was going to give them some advisement about what to do.
how do you mean though? Because
The
I
reason
might be able to
behind
answer your
your
question.
design.
The reason behind the design was so that there was a sitting area, because the whole idea of it was to have a sitting area and a small garden. So instead of having the sitting area be benches in a garden, Terry Schottmeyer and Elizabeth Dudley went to the site and looked at it and then came up with the idea of a seating wall. So the idea of it is to provide a place for people to sit and kind of look out over the park. Maybe you're disabled or elderly and you don't want to walk all the way down to the river. This provides you with a space to sit just 15 feet from the parking lot.
And it's low-level seating.
It's
so it's
18-inch high, it would be and as you get down the slope, if it curls down the slope, the idea was that it might be a little higher as you get or down slope. So less than 18 inches is supposedly, I asked the same question. I said, what's the shortest this is gonna be? Because you don't wanna sit down and have like 10 inches for your legs to sit,
Mhm.
She said 18 inches is the typical
Chair height.
Yeah.
way to do
And,
that.
and
so.
also, so when you come in, you're coming in from this end here, and you said the reason for the flowers is to have something to sit and see, but you said the sitting wall is designed so that you're
It-
facing.
No, no, it wasn't to sit and see the flowers necessarily. I guess it was.
Does that
But I-
anchor the wall a little bit?
Yeah, it's, you pull up, it's a nice looking park, you walk through it,
Yeah.
you walk around the flower bed, and you go into the
Yeah.
park.
You go into the park. And what's the amount put aside for the plants? Would you
We
have
have-
5,000 for Stratham Nursery?
No,
Donated?
1,000.
Oh, 1,000.
Yeah, we, no, it was one. We
Oh.
have not set aside any money specifically to do anything in regards to this yet.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of working on a design to decide.
And it would also be more
What it would cost.
handicap accessible as well.
That's what this
If
is
you
right
didn't
here.
have the plants here, if somebody handicap wanted to come in and sit and eat and spend, because I know in our property next door, we have a handicap van come in, and the woman used to the caretaker used to try to push the woman down the trail, but the wheelchair can't do it, so she just sits in the van and looks out
Right.
at the view.
And this is that's the idea of this path right here would be a handicap accessible path. It's
Okay.
only, it's like 25 feet long. It's like from here to
How
to that
wide is
wall.
it though? Because you have to understand.
Yeah, no, it's,
How wide is it?
I don't have a scale on that.
Because I know ADA, you've got to have
Ye-
36 to 48 inches, so I'm just saying, if you're in a wheelchair and you're handicapped, and you want to sit there and enjoy the view, and you've got people coming in and out, and
Elizabeth
you
has
know
been-
what I mean? You'd
No,
be-
I do. Elizabeth has
I'd be
been-
uncomfortable.
Elizabeth has been very sensitive to that, to designing for that ability for someone
Yeah.
to make it down there. So she's included a van accessible sign right here.
Yeah.
And she has, I believe her concept was to design this so that it's, yeah, it says it right here. It says universal access crushed stone stabilizer path, maximum 1 to 12 slope for universal access, raked and maintained.
Crushed stone
it was
isn't good for
designed.
wheelchairs, and
That's the parking lot.
It's like cinder. That's the way they did the
Oh,
accessible.
like stone dust?
Yeah, that's the way they did the accessible park up on Route 4. The whole,
Yeah.
Northwood Meadows is an accessible park, and that's all.
So not, you
centered.
said not paved, is that
I
what you were
think-
talking
I
about?
think-
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably correct, though, getting from here to there, if it's crushed stone and not cinder.
yeah, and then, like I said, once you're here, if you want to sit and enjoy the view, and it's only ADA accessible 36 to 48 inches wide, and you're sitting in a wheelchair, and you've got other people going back and forth, they're gonna have to, if you've got 2 or 3 people walking, they're gonna have to single file around you, which I think, I would be uncomfortable if I was in that position. If you had all this hardscape, you'd have somebody handicapped able to come in here and have a lunch and sit and enjoy the park, not just park themselves in a little narrow pathway.
No, they wouldn't have to park there, though, they could roll to here.
They can roll to here. What are they gonna do here? This is grass? Is there any hardscape for a handicapped person to put their wheelchair into, do you know what I mean?
I can't
Out of
answer
the
that.
way
I'm getting
of-
grilled.
Yeah.
No, I will say this, the one thing that we did discuss, though, is that, and I think we've discussed it here before, is that we may have one park in town that we've actually specifically, probably not even specifically designed to be, our parks are not, the conservation areas we have never built like a ADA accessible path or trail, and I agree with what you're saying, and I will definitely suggest it. People are in
Yeah,
consensus, it's.
I mean, that's expensive to do, a complete handicap trail. I've seen those documentaries on TV, but this wouldn't be a trail. This would
No, I
just be
know, I understand.
a big area for some people.
Right, I also want to be somewhat sensitive to, I'm not in favor of putting a lot of non-permeable surfaces there either. It's not a very good thing to do next to a river, is to we don't want to increase the number of non-permeable surfaces, as I feel as part of our duty being the Conservation Commission, we don't want to do that. We haven't done that with any of our lands really, so,
Well, if you did decide to do something here and to eliminate the good majority of the plants, you could slightly slope it in to the inside and put a rain garden in there, which you would put certain plants that are known to help the soil and so forth, and so you'd have a rain garden there, which would basically be, you wouldn't need any maintenance on it at all, so you wouldn't have to find a group to take care of it, and you'd still be able to accommodate larger groups of people more comfortably at picnic tables and benches if you put a rain garden in the center, so you can have it all pitched there. They did that up at UNH, right next to the big Paul building that they just put in. Have you been there?
Mhm.
They've got a fantastic rain garden there. It's like all terraced right down to it. So you could do something like that, just put a little rain garden in the middle, and that eliminates the need for maintenance.
I'd have to think, I have to look and see about picnic tables and what they talked about in the original documents. I don't know that. I can't remember if we can. It's, I can't remember.
Do we need
You
to
mean
have a
with the
shoreline?
church, the agreement with the church?
Yeah, because we didn't want to have to we weren't going to put any trash receptacles out here.
No, you put a sign, carry in, carry out.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I-
like most we do, yeah.
Is that a shoreline impact permit requiring project to build this wall
I don't think so. We are
farther enough away?
400 and something feet from the river.
I guess they built that big garage. There was talk that they're tearing that house down.
And I
As
heard there was
well.
talk that they were going to rehabilitate it.
I think they want
I
to tear
heard
it down.
both, yeah.
Yeah.
Rumors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm all for just leaving it grass how it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
No garden, just grass
But
is
did
fine.
Terry want the garden?
I think so. I think she was into having
Mhm.
something there that was, I don't know who brought it up originally, but it was part of the talk from the beginning of the park. And like I've said since the beginning of my involvement in this, is I've been trying to defer to the people who've put the significant amount of effort and time into kind of coming up with the idea in the first place, and then going out and gathering funds and kind of getting other people involved.
Yeah, they did a lot of work.
And, yeah, exactly, so,
Yeah.
so this is an area where most of the input they were hoping from us was, do you want something that's difficult to maintain and costly
No.
to maintain?
No.
Do you want a
No.
garden?
No.
Kind of what's
No.
the thought there? So, the preference would either be accessible hardscape with picnic tables type thing,
In minimal
or,
hardscape, not a
or
lot.
just grass as is.
I like grass
I
as
like
is.
grass.
Yeah, I like grass as is too.
And,
And the seating wall?
the
Is that
idea
what
of the
you're talking
seating
about?
The
wall
seating
versus,
wall.
seating wall
Yeah.
versus
Seating.
benches, what do you?
I like the seating wall just because it accommodates
permanent, easy.
more people and.
Yeah, I like it too, because it's part of the whole landscape.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's not just.
Okay. So,
Do you think we need a motion, Jeff, I don't know what we feel? They weren't looking for that level, they were just looking for
I don't think
lots.
so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I don't want to say that we're gonna come up with the final answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think what she's got for a
Because I think,
garden.
I think they might think of Roseanne's idea and say, wow, that's a good idea, maybe we should do that. Or they might say, oh, grass, that's a good idea. In either way, I don't, this whole area right here is gonna be crushed stone. If there's this much more crushed stone. It's not like, or cinder or hardscape or some sort. I don't think it's like a huge impact because of its location.
I like the garden. And I think looking at the plants that she's got, it looks like it would be sort of a naturalized meadow type look.
That was what she was
And
going
it
for.
wouldn't be a whole lot of like picking at roses and deadheading. It would just be maybe mow it down, let it grow, and then mow it down again. So I don't think it looks, it's not so fussy as what's down at Shanda Park. I mean, not that that's real fussy, but it's,
Yeah.
when there's a weed between the hostas, you can tell.
Yeah.
And some of those you wouldn't mow, like there's lupin.
Yeah,
you know, so.
yeah, but I know
I
like
think
the
it was the
lupin
idea of
fields
kind
they
of a
make, they
wild
just
flower
sort of,
mix.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would look nice. And it would spread around maybe, naturalize a little bit in the field.
If the deer eat stuff,
Yeah.
it's not as
This
big an
is
issue.
the scale of this design, I would say, is 30% of the original design.
Wow.
Or maybe 40%, 30%. So I think that I think I don't know the cost of this. I think the first time she got a cost estimate for us, and it was a lot. And so
Was it a lot because of the plantings or because of the hardscape?
it was.
'Cause I would think it was
a
the-
mix because it was a lot.
Okay.
There were plantings along the road here, which we're not going to do because they could
Plow 'em?
Plow 'em up.
They could do that, and then in a few years, they could say, actually, you know what?
We need a
We're gonna move
sidewalk."
your easement.
Yeah.
And you're gonna pave this, you know, so who knows if that'll
Now,
happen,
that road's
probably
not gonna
but-
be plowed during the winter, is it?
It might be, yeah.
It might be,
We can plow it,
yeah.
yeah.
We might
So,
get some ice fishermen.
Yeah, skating. I wonder if it freezes over there good.
It's not the probably safest
Not the
place
best.
on the river to be
No.
Yeah.
in the winter, but
so I would say that there's a few folks that like the flowers idea. The majority seem to say grass, and a few folks that would like to see hardscape with picnic tables. Sound kind of fair?
yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Basically, we have nothing.
No,
Nothing
that's
new.
input.
Yeah.
And if you look at the plants that she's chosen, they're almost all ground covers.
Mhm.
So it isn't that you're gonna have, you know, a garden
Mhm.
type of thing. So I don't know how
So-
attractive it's going to even be doing it with just all ground covers.
Hmm.
I think the idea is, and what we requested was extremely low maintenance
Yeah.
to no maintenance. So that was kind of what we had asked, you know, we said, if you're gonna do a garden here, it's gotta be like self-maintaining.
Mhm.
We're not gonna go weed it
Yeah.
unless someone decides they wanna weed it, but we're not gonna
Yeah.
probably go weed
It'll be
it.
good when you meet with them again and can narrow down what the outcome is really going to be.
Well, are there other questions that you would have had that?
No, I just thought if that would have helped, you know, we could have them come back and, but maybe what we should do is when they've gotten some input from us, it would be, I think it would be interesting to hear back, and maybe it's you, but, or whoever, some representative. I think it would be nice if we could even put it up on the screen so people could see it at home. Just to see it, because I think it's exciting, exciting development to watch occur.
Mhm.
We're all looking forward to the park. It's gonna be great.
Is there such
There's-
thing as like a three-dimensional, you know how like if you build a house, you can see it like this and then you can
Right.
change the angle and see what it would actually look like? Is there anything like that for this type of, project?
I,
Here is.
For a
yeah,
cost,
people make
probably.
them, yeah. I don't know what
That would
Elizabeth's
be cool.
capabilities are to that three-dimensional end.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be great to say, oh, let's take this away. Let's see what it looks like now.
Yeah.
Because the thought is get the plan all in place this year and sort of break ground on it next spring or next
I
summer.
don't think so.
Oh, maybe try and do it before the.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
before the fall.
I mean, they like to take action. And, that's the idea is
Okay.
to keep it moving and,
All right.
and get it done. We do know that, the other thing I was gonna bring was the docking, is that the docking may take longer to come through, just working with the state. You know, they had a little bit of issue with the thought of our design. So they're kinda, you know, Dennis, Abbott has, been taking that on and meeting with folks at the state, trying to come up with I think they have another meeting, or they just had one, perhaps. I know they had another meeting scheduled up in Concord, to go kind of discuss the concept that we're looking at. So, that doesn't seem like it's gonna happen this year. But I think they're hoping to get everything else going this year.
And did you say at the last meeting that they were gonna put a fence up along a section of the road, but they're not doing that now?
Yeah, we were gonna
Okay.
put a fence here, you know, at the edge of the parking lot.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think that's.
That's gonna be done now.
Yeah, I mean, it might in the end, but
Mm-hmm. Right.
I like the idea of a split rail fence there, but I think I might have been in the minority on that.
I like that idea too.
Sort of like what we have at
Yeah.
Piscataqua Loisel.
Yeah.
Lozells, yeah.
The only thing I could see becoming a problem with it is pushing snow up against it. That's what happens to the one at Piscataqua Loisel. That's why we're replace the rails all the time.
Yeah,
Because
there's one broken now.
yeah, there is one. I've been looking at it every time I go there.
I think about it every time I drive by.
I don't have a
Oh,
pickup truck
better
anymore,
let
so
Jeff
it's not easy
know.
for me to go pick up another rail
Yeah.
and have it installed, or install it, I mean. So I guess what you're saying is I will email out those comments, and then, you know, based on those, I'm sure people will provide some feedback, maybe, and then maybe even get, you're thinking maybe Elizabeth to come to our next meeting and perhaps another member?
Well,
I mean, I think they're hoping I would be able to be the liaison.
okay, that's fine.
Which I bet Richie would be more than willing to come. I can't guarantee that. I might be able to get
Maybe
away.
you can just report back, you can just give us an update. This is
Mhm.
what was decided, and this is what it's gonna be.
Mhm.
These are the wishes
No.
of the Conservation
Yeah, they're gonna incorporate them, without a
Yeah.
doubt, to a certain extent.
Committee.
They're not
Okay.
gonna completely say, no, we're gonna make this even more difficult to take care of than this shows, or something like that. But
Right.
They might say, you know, garden's really good and it's super low maintenance, and we'd love to try to convince you guys that that's the right thing to do, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
What's the initial cost of all the plantings?
This I have no idea. That's what I'm saying. We had a cost based on the previous design to give us an idea, and that was a lot. I don't remember what the combined cost was, but I think it was in the $40,000 range. But like I said, there's almost no plants compared to how many plants and trees there were
Were there
before.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I can dig some out of my yard
And
that
the
is on
size-
that
the-
list.
the size- the
That's what we
size-
need to do.
The size of the wall, I think it was 30-something feet across the long axis of the ellipse there, the major axis. So it's that, she shrunk that down quite a bit, and that would reduce the cost. The linear feet of wall has been decreased significantly.
That's the biggest expense.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
There's
there
a-
actually is a big expense in the difference between natural stone and concrete block. And the consensus of the committee was that if we're gonna go with concrete block, then we're just gonna put stone benches instead of a seating wall. It's like natural stone or nothing, more or less, was kind of the consensus, so. Which I kind of agree with, I think,
Mhm.
in that sort of setting with the sort of goal that is more natural, the better.
I would agree though about the footpath thing too, because it looks like, if I'm judging it correctly, it's probably about 4 feet wide in that picture, maybe 4.5. I'd
Yes.
probably err to being wider. Like, you know, it sounds like a great place for like a wheelchair to
Yeah.
get down, and even
And
even
maneuver.
even 5 feet's a little bit narrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if there is a footpath, it'd be nice if it was wide enough for people to get down there.
To the oval part.
Yeah,
To the ellipse part.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. If somebody wants to stop, they don't have to feel like they gotta, oh, sorry,
All the
sorry.
time.
Yeah.
Especially with how it, at least in this design, it is a pretty sharp turn. So I would probably err to the side of caution and go a little bit wider on a potential footpath, just to be nice to allow people to get down there.
Okay, it's all very good input. I'll definitely report that back and then let everyone know what okay. I don't know if you guys caught on to that. I haven't studied this thing in depth, but it does say it's a native pollinator garden is
Yeah,
the idea.
but she was gonna put a little sign, she should.
Right.
I think it sounds meadowy.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, I think. So those are low bush blueberries. And the low bush, yeah, I mean, it seems low maintenance,
Mhm.
the garden area,
Mhm.
so I can really go either way. And so I guess then the consensus would be potentially if it stayed a garden, but we had a wider path, then folks might, instead of wanting to just sit right here, because there's not an easy access down to there. But if this was grass, I mean, it would be mowed lawn grass, not
Then
field
you
grass.
have to mow it every week.
Well,
Yeah.
the trail is supposed to be mowed like every week or every other week, yeah.
Yeah, but what's that for a cost for
Then
maintenance?
we have a volunteer in line.
Oh,
until
okay,
that
good.
volunteer so decides not to do it anymore, but we currently
Oh,
have
that's
someone
great.
who's
Great.
offered to mow the trail
Okay.
for us. And it seems to be mowed all the time. I don't know
Yeah,
how often,
that's
I don't
great.
know if people go by there often, but I would guess this small of an area to mow would not take a lot more time. I don't know what it's mowed with, probably not a push mower, so I don't know about mowing in there, but. So potentially a leveled surface, yeah. Okay, I will bring those, I will email those comments out probably tomorrow and circulate the, any thoughts I get back from the committee.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Sure, sorry that took so long.
So the only thing that Drew had on for the chairman's report was, and he did send out an email about this, there is a GIS training over at UNH on September 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. And I believe he also sent out the link to sign up for that. And Drew is signed up currently to do that. He said that in the past they've offered it and they haven't always gotten enough people to do it. So if you sign up to do it, maybe let the group know, just so we can kind of gauge how many people we may end up doing it.
How much is it?
I think it's free, there
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah, I'm interested, but I don't know if I can make it.
What day of the week does that land on?
I'd see September 6th, so first is
Wednesday?
Wednesday,
Oh,
no, Wednesday,
Wednesday.
yeah.
Okay. Because the 4th is Labor Day, Monday.
Yeah, it's Labor Day week. And it's more of an introduction, I think. You're probably gonna just start to learn about GIS in 2 hours. You're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to do that much, but you know, I don't know. You'll know more than when you started.
I have used that coastal viewer before. I don't know if you guys have
Great.
used it.
Yeah,
It's
I've
pretty
used it a
it
little
gets
bit.
pretty intuitive. Once you start to use it, you
Mhm.
kind of figure out where things are. I bet in 2 hours I can get you pretty
still get
adept at
lost
using
in
it.
Newmarket.
Yeah.
No sense of direction.
Okay, so now on to old and new business. We started with Shanda Park. We did already sort of get a report from Roseanne, so appreciate that. We don't have a lot else to report because Drew and I we haven't accessed, if there is a file, I don't know if you talked to Diane about that, we haven't seen it, if there was any clear sort of statement of, here's what we're responsible for doing with the park.
With the with Shanda Park?
With Shanda Park, as far as, is there any specific directives, I think was one of the things that we were looking for. Or, just as you said, we're supposed to maintain it, we're not supposed to allow any land to fall in, which.
We can't decrease the square footage of the land, usable land
Right,
area.
so,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it can fall in the river, but
Yeah.
we can't intentionally.
we can't
decrease.
sell, I think we can't
Okay.
sell a piece of land.
If the river
probably.
takes it, the river takes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
We're
was gonna
trying
say,
to
that might be
avoid
tough.
though. We
Yes.
it's a well-used piece of land. The, I don't know if anyone's been down there, the snow fence has been put up,
Yeah, we're
the
down there.
orange
Yep.
safety fence, and it's going, so if there's the part which you might call the bridge that goes over the brook there, it's going from that corner all the way out pretty much on the peninsula where the park bench is in the garden. And it seems to be holding up. I checked it just yesterday, so it looked fine. So we've got that temporary fix in place, and we'll need to get more information about different options, I think, about repairing the stone, so we can say, here's what the riprap cost would be, here would be the cost of restoring the stone wall that we currently have there. Although we sort of got an estimate from Phil McDonald, right, that it might be $300 a foot?
What?
for the
Yeah,
vertical
compared
wall.
to 100.
For vertical wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we generally know. I mean, I think the vertical wall is really pretty,
Yeah.
but if it's only gonna just keep falling to pieces, I don't know. Although if it was 1980, is that when you said that park was?
Yeah,
So it's almost,
yeah.
30
So it's held
years.
up for quite some
Yeah.
time now, yeah. And I did mention at the planning board also the condition of the, I asked Amy Burns on council to take it back to the council about the boat ramp, how awful it is and what's going on there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
hopefully council can address that, have Casey, to bring that back to council to see if they can get back in touch with Fish and Wildlife to get that project going again.
yeah, and as I recall from our discussion with Mike, our code compliance officer that night, he indicated that the state was interested in doing something, but what they wanted to do was narrow it.
Standard size with
Yeah.
bollards, yeah.
And if you've seen their boat ramps in other places, they're sort of outlined with concrete.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they would like to do if we said, sure, we'd like your help, they might
Yeah.
come back to us with a plan like that, it sounds like. I don't know, we can,
But that's what they came up with the first time
Yeah.
around, and the town said no to it, so.
right.
So unless they change their mind, because it is a problem, it is creating a problem down there. So the council should probably look into that. I think that would be the entity to do it.
I can't imagine them making that path more narrow. Would they then have to build up more? And I guess, I don't know, I can't, if you have this much and you pave this much, then what do you do with the rest
yeah.
of it?
Yeah,
It's
you
just
move the
muck?
wall.
Yeah, make the walls come here,
And then fill it, or,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
that's,
Yeah.
that's,
And the way the, ro- and that, the
The
way
footprint's
the way
pretty
the road is, you don't wanna
permanent, I
bump out the
think.
park wall, because the or goes straight into it, you'd have to back.
Yeah, it'd be awkward to get a boat in
Yeah.
that way.
And the other wall they just redid,
Mhm.
where the footpath is through there, the little park.
Mm.
I will say, one thing to add, I did look through our files at Doucette Survey, and we did survey work for the parking lot, but not the entire park that I could find. So I said I would look through our files to see if we had plans in the entire park.
Diane must have something, if there was.
Yeah, but I
the town did it, yeah, from
Right,
1980.
but
And I think she also said too, it wasn't in her email, that there are grants available to do work down there. She did say at the planning board meeting that there are grants that we could do, so. Like I said, she was on vacation this week, she came back Tuesday night just for the meeting, and then I think she came into work yesterday, so.
Okay.
I didn't wanna push too many buttons, so I'll talk to her Monday.
Is there any other questions or comments about Shanda Park? Okay, so Dearborn Property Survey. Drew was gonna send out an email about that.
You did.
He did, okay. And I believe the suggestion that we talked about was surveying behind the houses on Grant Road, surveying the access right-of-way off of Grant Road, and surveying behind the houses behind Pendergrast.
Wasn't there something mentioned in this email, something about a 50-foot buffer, was that behind the houses, or?
It's not a strip, it's the access
Okay,
off of Grant Road.
all right.
It's variable width, but it's roughly 50 feet
Okay.
wide. That goes back to where the property opens up.
Mhm.
And that's where the driveway for 202 Grant Road sits on that 50-foot strip. Where he says that we would also like the driveway for 202 Grant Road roughly delineated on the 50-foot wide strip. I don't know if there have been discussions since our last meeting, but we had discussed granting of an easement for
Right.
that driveway to that abutter.
Mhm.
And if that is our intent, still, we should ask the surveyor to additionally create a recordable plan that would accompany the deed for that easement.
Mhm.
So that would be something that I just saw, he just sent this out today, I believe, so I think that I was gonna,
Yeah.
eventually I'll, like tomorrow or so, I'll reply to Drew's email with that comment, so that we get it on paper. But
Okay.
that's one thing that I would suggest, if that's still part of the plan, I don't know if you know otherwise, or.
No, that's all that he had mentioned to me when he just went over the agenda with me. And he did say he was gonna send the email out, and I just hadn't had a chance to look at it before I got here. But that sounds I mean, he was more concerned, I guess, on one side of the right-of-way, there's a stone wall. That probably it might be the boundary line there.
It is
And-
for part of it.
For part of it, and then,
Back.
but the other side, that we truly might wanna get something marking that side of it as well.
We do, without a doubt. That ties in, I mean, it's, the 50-foot strip goes back, and the abutters that he's talking about are the right-hand side of the 50-foot strip, going up from Grant Road, and then taking a right behind that first house and going behind all those other houses. It's just open woods. And then it comes to a corner after several houses, and then goes along Pendergast, but behind one house. Yeah, I think it's just behind one house. And then it picks up a little bit of stone wall, but it's only like maybe 50 or 100 feet of stone wall. And then it's again across like kind of open land. It's wooded, open land. I'd say open land because it's not like a wall. And then it comes to a corner, and then goes just about to Pendergast without a wall around that house, basically. So those are the abutters, so it's like mark the right-hand side of the 50-foot strip, and then mark the line behind those houses that are on Grant Road, then mark the line behind the house on Pendergast, and the line behind, to Pendergast. And that's what I discussed with a fellow whose name I always unfortunately forget from OEPD.
Oh, Steve
Steve
Walker,
yeah.
okay.
So when I walked in with Steve last winter, that's what we discussed doing, exactly that. And we were trying to tie it together, and we also discussed granting of an easement. The state was Steve was very supportive of that idea, and cleaning that up and making sure it was all good to go. And then, like I said, having the lines marked, just like Drew mentioned.
So do you recall, and he was okay with us not getting a survey on the parts of the land, I
Yes,
guess,
yes.
on the other
We've said
side,
that-
because it doesn't abut any homes or, I mean,
Yeah,
it might abut
the
some
left- the
private
left
property
homes.
in there, but it's not homes, or it's not.
It's not an area where he's seen an issue in the past, and he didn't feel that it had to be at the time we walked it. We didn't even go over there.
Okay.
The two new houses that have been built on Mr. Dearborn's old property, where the homestead was. I mean, marking that line, going that way, I can't remember if there's wall there or not, but some of it's field, I think, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to have that marked as well if it's not currently, because we would want to put up town and Newmarket conservation tags.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I think even that other area where it might not need to be surveyed, because there might be barbed wire fence or something, some evidence there, a few tags might not be a bad idea, but not out back where we abut like Nature Conservancy or other fish and game land, or I can't remember who owns, but there's conservation land out back there
Right.
that we probably don't need to.
So then basically, we're gonna discuss whether or not, what did Drew say last time, about $2,000?
Yeah.
So is it the board's consensus that they wanna make a motion on that to go ahead with the survey? And they can delineate everything that Jeff just discussed?
Oh, no, he was gonna send this is what he's gonna send to surveyors.
Okay, to
To
get.
get
bids.
bids.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's gonna,
okay.
what we were saying before is that it'll probably be more than $2,000.
Okay.
So we need
I
to
would
get,
think so.
we need
Yeah.
we need to get
Okay.
quotations
Multiple.
from at least three,
Yeah.
or at least
Okay.
requotes from at
All
least three.
right.
If it's over
So
10,000,
he was just
we need
asking for
to-
any extra input.
Yeah, as to what to
For
ask.
information to ask, okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was
All right.
saying, I was gonna add in the thing about creating when they go out there to collect enough evidence and in the 50-foot strip area where we're gonna
Grant
hopefully
an
grant an
easement, a
easement.
possible easement,
Yeah,
yeah.
to
Do it all at once.
create that plan.
Yep, yep.
That is field, behind those two homes.
Yeah, okay, where the
Mhm.
line, where the
Yep.
line
Yeah.
crosses through, yeah.
Now, do you, typically when you don't have a wall and you don't have any other physical feature, do you just put pins? I'm turning to you because of
Yeah.
your experience. Would we have pins there that we would want to have placed by the surveyor?
If there are missing property corners,
Uh,
lot corners, you'd want to have them replaced typically. So the corner is there at least. And if you want points on lines, sometimes it's okay, but Drew's idea was to have it blazed, which
What's
is,
blazed mean?
so blazed, they're gonna cut the bark, they skin the bark on little spots in the tree.
Oh, okay.
And then maybe paint them. I think there's some out there that are already, the state typically blazes in blue on their
Oh.
property and easements. So there's a triple blue blaze right by the road, and I don't know if the state did that,
Mm.
because they have an easement there, but that's kind of typical of state forest lands, so that they're blazed and painted blue. So you nick the bark and get down to the woody part of the tree, so it heals in that kind of blaze-looking thing.
Okay.
So
well,
that's kind of what I would suggest on it. I don't think it's worth putting like 5 points down the line
Okay.
that are steel pins and stuff.
I'm just thinking too, if that's probably the place that we're most gonna have to be monitoring, whatever's gonna make it easy, if the blazes
Or they
our,
hang. So
our Newmarket, badges, tags that we put on the trees.
that can be done too. Or, I've also seen it in jobs where we've been asked to just flag the line. So we go flag it, and then the conservation group goes and puts the metal signs wherever they want.
Right.
On the trees, feet in, or on the trees that we flag, or,
Yep.
however. Putting pins along the backs of a bunch of lots is not usually the best idea unless you're surveying all those lots in between, because then you put a bunch of more monuments where there's already should be a bunch of monuments, and sometimes you can create confusion for those landowners.
Okay.
Thinking that the pin they see is their corner, but it's just a random point on our line. And you don't typically determine everyone's lot corner as you go, where blazes are more, they're harder to confuse for your own lot corner.
Okay.
You can see them, so.
All right, so then I think you could just go ahead and send that back to him, that would be great. It sounds like we don't have any other input.
Yeah, I'll definitely send that.
Okay. On to Heron Point. So, the latest from Heron Point, the boulders were placed out there by Public Works to keep people from going places that they're not supposed to go. But I think in talking to Drew, it sounds like we're probably gonna need to meet with the co-op board there again to discuss their concerns. They are concerned about how people are using the property after hours. It's not realistic, according to the town manager, that the police department or Department of Public Works would be the gatekeeper, opening and closing the gates, that they just can't take that responsibility on. So we would like to, be friendly neighbors and try and work with the co-op board to listen to their concerns, and also, but keeping in mind that that is a public area that people want to have access to, and I know if the gate's shut, then people can't get down there.
Are they allowed, is it from just after sunset, you can't be there, or?
I believe
Is it
it's
sunset?
sunset.
It's open dawn to dusk.
Dawn to dusk,
Dawn
is
to
that what it
dusk,
says?
okay.
Dawn to dusk, yeah.
Dawn to
sign
dusk.
right at the
But they have
entrance.
people going in after dusk is what the
Yes.
neighbors are saying, yeah, because I know that Fred Pearson and Pauline had tons of trouble with them going down and breaking the railing on the, can't the police go in there and catch what's going on and find them or do something, and that would hopefully deter them?
I think that would certainly help. That would certainly help.
So the gate's locked
All the time now.
all the time now? Okay. You could still get in there.
Isn't there a
You
woman
can
there
park
that's?
a little bit.
Well, so I received an email from Dale.
You just have to walk.
Who had offered to help us maintain the park, and asking me what was going on, because I had communicated with him several times. And I said, geez, I don't know, so I went down there to take a look at it, and, there's, someone had put no parking, I have some photos, but someone had put some no parking signs on the gate, and then some no parking signs stuck on their lawn.
Because they don't want people
They don't want
parking
people-
on their
Right,
lawn.
because
On
the
their
gate's
lawn.
closed.
Yeah, I don't blame
Right
them.
there, it is, remember right, it is private property that the driveway crosses.
Yeah, we got permission to go down.
Yeah, not just the road,
Ah.
not just the road, but the actual,
So
the
when,
dirt part-
when that
part of the-
gate's
part of the
closed,
dirt part
then
is-
no cars can go down there at all.
Unless they park at the Bay Road lot and walk, they're allowed to
Yeah.
walk in.
They don't wanna
If
do
it's,
that.
yeah.
Park locally.
Right, it's an easement for access, not an easement for parking, I
Yeah.
would guess. So they're probably not allowed to.
That's correct, yeah.
Is is there any signage there at all that tells them dawn to dusk and
Yes.
no
Yes.
parking?
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
good
Yeah, I'll
signage.
show you the
Yes.
sign. there's a sign, that's.
Yeah.
It does then seem like the police matter.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk to Kyle True, to the chief, regarding that.
The sign
I'm-
could use a little updating, but it's obvious, it says it
Yeah,
right on it.
I'm
so-
sure,
I'll
I'm sure the
forward him.
town manager has, let them know as well that those are the complaints, that people are down there. I think it's probably too, if the gate was open, it's almost like someone has to call when they're actually down there.
Now, Dale mentioned
Yeah,
that,
those are
there were a few people that lived in that area that were willing to
Right,
lock-
including himself, that
Yeah,
would be
that were willing to
open and
lock,
close the
open and
gate.
close it.
Well,
Like,
well,
is that an
there's
option,
somebody
or is
else
that
does
not an option because of
Are they allowed to
some
do
This is
that?
usually
legal
the
or
only
liability
parks
type
there.
of thing?
They were only
Like,
parking there
is-
because the
It seems
gate's
like a
closed.
good idea.
That's tough though, because then you involve, I think, personal politics.
They're parking
Oh, I'm
there
not
because the
opening the
gate's
gate
closed.
anymore.
Where-
There was
Well,
something
it
bad.
sounds
Parking
like
there
they're
because the
willing
gate
to
is
open
closed.
the gate.
Okay.
Like,
We've
it sounds
gotta-
like it's better than what we have right
The
now.
gate was always
I wonder if it could be a magnetic gate. I don't know how much those cost, but it
Open
just-
it, open
I
it
know.
with a cell phone,
Well,
right?
no, but it like closes at a certain time. It's set on a timer, and then it
then
is
it
magnetic, and it opens and it
needs
locks.
to be able to open from the inside though.
Yeah.
So it'd have to,
Oh,
I would guess
yeah.
it'd be a raised lower gate, that would be, if you were to do it, right? That would,
Yeah.
because you don't wanna get, oh no, dusk is
Yeah.
actually at 6:42
Yeah, it's not
tonight,
really
it's 6:42.
feasible at that
So it's
location.
gotta be one of those, like,
And-
you can drive in during the day and it'll open or stay open, but you can always drive a car out.
Right.
But then somebody could probably go on the inside and act like they're a car.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't really know, I've never tried to trick one of
So
those
is there an issue with having, do you know about an issue of having, the surrounding, like, neighbors, be willing to open the gate? Like, is that a problem from a legal perspective?
I have no idea.
I think we'd have to check that. It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Does the town own the property? Is it the town's property?
Not the entrance,
Not
the
the entrance.
park
The
is.
easement isn't, so the problem is if we lose access to easement, you can't get to the park. And that's the fear, is that if we, if too many feathers get ruffled and we lose access, then nobody can access the park because there's no way to get down there. There's no town property.
It sounded like it was a revocable easement.
Yeah, exactly. That's the concern.
Maybe that's the
Yeah.
solution then. Let them care for their own easement. Okay, you're the gatekeeper now.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
but then
no,
they
it's
can
it's
make all
our
the
it's our easement
Oh.
to our property.
Mhm.
So we own the property, is my understanding,
You just
right?
own
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
how
but
we
we- yeah.
park, right.
But we
The
can't
easement,
get there
the
unless we're
first-
allowed
Well,
to.
right,
go
I
through
know,
it.
but
It's
if-
like the first 50 feet.
Who owns that portion? The
Either I don't
The
know.
trailer
I-
park?
Co-op.
The park, yeah, the co-op.
The
Yeah.
co-op technically owns it.
And that's my understanding from.
then they do have sort of a fair argument to control the gate that's
Yeah.
on their property.
Absolutely.
And they're
Well, it's- the
willing to
offer is-
do it.
They're willing to they're willing to.
So who's
to
saying
do
they
it.
can't do it?
I don't think anyone has officially said they can't. I don't know what
I
the
don't think anyone
answer was.
said
I
that.
think that Dale wrote a letter
It
to,
could get political, potentially, I would think.
Yeah,
Is the
no,
only
there's
concern.
already, I think
to
they.
Steve Fournier.
Yeah, there's legal letters going back and forth right now, so that's why I'd say we're not, I don't know the answer to that question. Obviously, if we could work it that way, it would be nice, but.
Yeah.
I personally don't think the placing, like the boulders that we had put out there, and, you know, Dale got a hold of me, and then I was like, oh, shoot, I gotta call Rick and get the boulders put out there, and get the boulders put, you know, they just put the boulders out a couple of days ago. But it took me like 2 weeks after our last meeting to even contact Rick. I apologize for that, but I honestly don't think the boulders are what's gonna stop people from going in there. Because if you're going in there in the middle of the night, say to fish for stripers or something like that, you're probably gonna be willing to walk.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
500 feet down a
Yeah.
trail instead of driving 500 feet down a
Right.
trail.
Oh, yeah, the
Access to
boulders.
And
are-
who's gonna be yelling and screaming when they're fishing anyways?
Well, I don't think that's the issue though, because if someone's coming and going at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would say first of all, you don't know what they're up to, if they're
Yeah.
fishing or if they're up to no good. And second of all, you're turning like 20 feet from someone's
Yeah,
home,
gravelly
you know?
lights
Yeah,
going.
gravel lights, there's a puddle, it's probably
So
noise.
those
If you have a
boulders,
dart, you know, a
those
dog,
boulders will
dog.
stop cars from going down?
From going down the trail, I haven't gone out
Okay.
to see what they look like, I
Okay.
guess I wouldn't be able to drive in there to see anyway.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, there's.
there were just to keep, there was reports that someone had been driving down close to the river.
Around and around the gate,
Like, 'cause
right?
no, no, when the
Once
gate
you
was
get
still
to the
open.
bottom.
When you get to the parking spot.
Past
you
the
could
parking
drive.
area.
Oh, past the
path
sign.
is actually wide enough that a car or a Jeep or something
Oh my
would
gosh.
drive it.
Like a four-wheeler or something.
So maybe the rocks are gonna.
Stop that.
That's
gonna
what the
help.
point of the
And
boulders
then maybe
were.
if the police get called and go down, if they hear people partying,
Yeah.
that'll
Well-
make a difference. But maybe the boulders, you need to have more time to see what the effect is going to be.
Listen, I think people will walk down. If they wanna go in there at night, you'll just,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
that would be my guess.
And I think part of the concern from what I gathered too is that even with the gate closed, there's also another concern too, where people don't know when the gates will be closed, so they drive down and check it out, and then you've got that traffic past dusk, presumably, of people
Yeah.
driving through the neighborhood. So I don't know. I think that's part of the concern too.
What if we
but-
took our new sign down?
Oh.
Has that bolstered interest in the park? Has there been more people, or is it just specific?
Oh, to look at the
It was
sign.
the, I think that these
No, that
people
they
were
see
here
it, and they're
before
like, oh,
the
there's Heron
sign.
Point there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been going
Yeah, I
on
don't
for a
think
long
this
Been
is
going
a
on
new,
forever.
this
Yeah.
isn't a new issue.
Since the
Um,
sun. That would be terrible.
I mean, the
Well,
only
nobody
other,
knew it was
the
there.
only other thing, yeah, I wonder if it is, the people walking down there, I think are probably less likely, the after-hours walkers are probably less likely to be the ones that are causing the biggest problems,
It's
are
the
my guess.
cars, the
It's the cars,
headlights.
because the cars go close enough that the lights actually probably
Yes.
are
Mhm.
right into the people's
Yeah, it's
homes
right
there,
next to
so what about?
We recently worked through an issue with that whole access with them.
Yeah.
And they worked with us on that because the easement was actually in the wrong place. It was through the house. It wasn't where the driveway currently is. So we fixed that problem like several years back. And I don't know, you know, they worked with us on that. There was no animosity that I know of between the town and the owners of the co-op or whatever, you know. So I don't know who dealt with that though. I know I surveyed it and I was on the commission, but I don't remember who was the intermediary, I guess I should say, between the town and the co-op. But one thing that I found a little troubling about the situation was that a citizen came to the Conservation Commission and said, "Why is this thing locked? It's been locked for weeks or like 2 weeks. You know, what's going on? You know." And I asked Drew, and Drew hadn't heard of it either.
Yeah.
Right.
Just, I don't know why the Conservation Commission wasn't contacted at the outset
Mhm.
to say,
Who locked it?
The town.
Ah.
to say, hey, you know, do you want
They
to
should
meet
work.
with us with the co-op, try to come up with a situation, you know, some sort of agreement that we can all live with.
Like a
or-
solution.
A solution, yeah,
Yeah.
that we
Well,
can all live with.
I didn't know the town locked it, I thought the co-op locked it.
Well, the co-op wants to open it.
Well, there's
Well,
people
no, there are
there
people that
who
wanna
would
lock
like
it, but my understanding is that because I didn't know what was going on, so I actually saw a police officer parked across the street at Town Hall when I was leaving work one day. I was pulled in, I was like, hey, what do you know, what's going on? And he said that DPW was gonna open and close the gate in the morning. I'm like, wow, that's tough. I'm like, what are they gonna do on weekends? You know, like, no one's, DPW is not gonna come on a Sunday and open the gate. And he said, I honestly have no idea. So, my understanding at that point, and if it's, I don't know, obviously believed the officer, was that there was, DPW had a key to the gate. So I think it's a town, do you know, Casey? If it's the
Yeah,
town.
yeah, and I guess the concern there is because in terms of the easement and with the housing authority down there, the grouping, I think the town decided that it was better to keep it locked, which means we wouldn't lose the easement until we can figure out some way to
Right.
move forward.
Yes.
Because if it's opening and closing and then they pull that easement back from us, that takes away everything. So the idea is that keep it locked until there's some type of solution, because we don't want to totally lose access to that property.
I wish at that point they would have contacted the
Yeah, so
crew and said, hey, by the way, we're locking up one of your parks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
people go to, like a lot of people go to.
So this is their short-term
We-
solution.
we
What
post
was the
something on-
long-term
Well,
plan?
I would have posted something on the town website saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would maybe reduce the number of people driving down there trying to access it,
Trying to
or the town
access it.
news.
Yeah, I think letting people know that it is a revocable easement is a good idea as
Good
well.
start.
Yeah, don't screw it up for everybody.
So
Well-
I think what Drew did suggest that we should make an effort to contact them and set up a meeting, he thought, to try and work through this with the co-op board.
The only thing I see with that is, I mean, we basically have to wait, like you said, there is some, they're looking into some legal issues, the town. So, I mean, we can sit and talk about this for another half hour, but until we get information from legal as to what we can and cannot do and what the co-op can and cannot do, I think we should just, it would be good to have a meeting with Chief True, Steve Fournier in Public Works, and someone from the co-op to discuss it further, and wait to get some, something back from Radigan's office, and see what they have to say for remedy, because, I mean, we can talk about this for another 3 hours, and we're not gonna
Yeah.
solve it, because it's not in our hands, but it would have been nice if they told us.
Because they have
that-
legal counsel's opinion, I believe, on it. It's just a matter of.
So, I mean, I think someone should set a meeting up with those 4 entities and say, what's going on? Let's get this resolved. Has management ownership or home ownership in that general area, has that changed within the last year or anything? Or has there been a change down there at all, or?
I don't know, it's a co-op board. It's a board, so that's a cooperatively owned park
Okay,
that the people live in.
'Cause I thought it
And then
changed
they have a
hands.
board,
yeah.
and I believe the board made the decision to contact the town, saying they're unhappy and they would like it locked until,
Until further,
Until
until
we can-
something can be resolved
Yes.
as to their problem. So I think
Yeah.
we should wait until we hear from Heroes, legal, from Radigan's office, and get the 4 main characters together and discuss it, because us discussing it's not gonna get it anywhere.
Yeah, and the last I heard was that, to bring up today, was that Conservation Commission should reach out to Heron Point, and there's been some, but all this stuff is coming to my desk very recently. The past 2 days, I've been getting a whole bunch of emails about it, so.
Yeah, and it was mentioned at planning board the other
Yeah.
night too, and I actually forwarded the letter that Drew had sent out from, was it Dale who wrote the letter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forwarded that to the members, to Diane, and she forwarded it to the members of the planning board, so they would have an inkling as to what's going on. I don't think it's a planning board issue, but, I mean, conservation talking with the board, if we're talking legal, I think we should wait to get legal and,
Well, are there meetings going on already about this? Because if there are, maybe we should just have somebody from here join the already existing meetings.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
I don't know that there have been meetings, but there's obviously been discussion back and forth.
The Heron Point Homeowners Association discussed it, and then they contacted Steve. So that's kind of where this has
And Steve-
gone.
Then Steve
what
got an
is Steve
opinion
doing?
from John Radigan.
Yes,
on
yep.
The ability to revoke.
Yeah.
easement. So the town's legal counsel has looked into it to a certain extent at least,
To a certain extent, but I do think that there's encouragement for continued discussion.
Yeah, no, I think you'd sit down with
Yeah.
them and maybe even John Radigan and Steve
Yeah.
Fornia and their legal counsel, who obviously has had input because they said that they received a letter from their legal counsel.
And how long ago did Steve get this information from Radigan's office?
I got all this information over the past 2 days in terms of from the town council angle, and I heard someone else about
This is
2
all
weeks ago.
recent, very
Very
recent.
recent, okay.
And there was,
Yes.
from my understanding, there was some stuff late spring, early summer, maybe April or May. There was initial concern that was raised, and then all the communications recently have been in the past month or so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be-
since
be-
Dale
be-
was concerned
Well,
about it.
because when it was raised in the early summer, spring and early summer, nothing was done about it, and it festered, because that seems to be what happens in town. So I think somebody has to put a little more coal in the furnace there and turn the heat up and get our town officials to do what they're supposed to do.
All right, so I'll follow up with Drew, because like I said, all this was coming at the last 24 to 36 hours. I'll follow up with Drew, to see where we are as far as starting those discussions.
Alrighty.
Sounds good.
Yep,
Okay?
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
thank you. Under other business, I have a question for Jeff. Do you know if the turtle eggs hatched yet?
I do not.
Oh.
It'll be later. I think. I don't know if that's quite yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How long, when do they usually hatch if they were in the wild?
I thought it was September.
Oh, wow, that
Maybe I should
long.
bring up this and other business.
Mid-September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know,
Yeah.
Andrew?
No, that sounds right though.
Yeah,
Go with that.
I think
Yeah.
it's when it starts to get a little cooler.
Yeah.
when it gets cooler.
I thought it might even
Okay.
actually be October.
Yeah.
You know, I had a thing about that. I think how you were talking about, I've been following your turtle discussion. Another place I see a lot of turtles is the cemetery on Elm Street. When you're coming up the hill, there's that big swamp, you know, on that side of the road, and I think they come through the cemetery, and I've seen them, they walk around that black fence, come like this, and cross the street, and go that way. I moved a snapping turtle, and when I moved it, I saw a painted turtle taking the same
Wow.
trail, so that's another high use, maybe
Is that,
turtle
is
crossing.
that fence an impediment for
Yep,
them?
yep,
Is it the town fence that surrounds that?
the cemetery,
Yeah.
yeah, that black metal fence.
So we need a
Yeah, I,
little-
I saw a turtle. It was in the road and it was moved, and then we debated about it, and I said no, wrong, and then we moved it back, and it started walking as we were debating around that perimeter of the fence. So it must have come out of the river, walked the fence, and then gone around to cross the road. So, yep, and there was a big snapper in the cemetery as we were.
How do you move a snapper? You can let them bite onto
I
a
did
piece
like
of-
this.
Well, no, you're not supposed to find a piece of wood
Very
and let them bite
carefully.
on it.
Yeah, quickly.
Aren't you supposed to find a
I
piece of
just
wood
put
and
a-
let them bite onto
Put a
it, and
sweater
then you
over
can?
its head.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's what
Yeah.
I do.
Carefully and quickly.
Yeah.
Under other, can I also bring up the Picassic?
Piscasic?
Piscasic.
Do you have an update on the maps?
Well,
and-
yes. And I realize I too sent this out really late. I guess this was the month for late emails going out. So Ellen sent a draft of possible text for the kiosk that I was hoping that we could look at, and also a draft of the aerial map of the property. And she also sent the, like, what it could possibly look like from the other, just a second, from the one that she created for Wigham Farm. So I know that people are looking at their emails right now, and I don't have this on paper, so I apologize, but kind of looks like this. I can send this down the aisle if you want.
Oh, the
It
next-
looks like this.
Yeah, I got the next one. Yeah.
Do you want to send that down so they can see it?
The Wigan Farm one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that's what, like, basically she's saying that it would kind of looks similar to.
Except for the
For the-
Losell one has
Oh, yeah.
more writing. I don't know if you noticed that there was an awful lot of
Yeah,
writing on that.
yeah, and actually, and I think that would be okay, only because it's more square than that is
Oh,
rectangle,
okay,
you know what I
okay.
mean?
More or vertical orientation
Like
to the
it's-
plant, to the map, yeah.
Yeah, it does allow for, some additional writing, I think. And she also sent.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it would look similar to that. She sent a draft for text. And so we don't have to talk about it right now. If you want to like take the next month to like look at the draft of the text, her plan is to be here next month. She was at a Durham meeting tonight and couldn't be here. But she plans on being here for September, and if you want, maybe we can
Wait.
wait and look at it and talk about it then, when she's here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that way
She's
you
here.
guys get a chance
Study
to
it.
like,
Yeah.
look at it, because I know there was a lot of emails coming at you.
Is it definite that she's gonna be at our next meeting?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't bet my life on it.
No.
But,
Would it be-
There's
would-
not gonna be a conflict with Durham again, is what I'm asking.
I don't know that for sure, because normally these types of meetings are like ours is always the second Thursday of every month.
Yeah.
But I know that, she indicated that, my impression was that she would make it a priority next month. So.
I mean, if not, maybe we could change just to accommodate her, change our meeting for that month. Just to get her in here so we can get those signs up in the,
Like if she
on the
has a meeting
kiosk.
at 7, we might be able to start at 6.
Or something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I can put that option out
yeah,
there if she has
absolutely,
this other
yeah.
meeting.
Because, you
Right.
know, she's got a job to do and, you know, they, like you said, they meet in the same
Yeah,
time
that's
schedule we
what
do.
happens. Everybody
Yeah.
meets in the
So
same.
we could meet an hour early, that's great, yeah.
Do you
I'd
want me
change
to
the
put
date.
that, option out there for her?
Yeah,
Yes.
6 is good for me.
Better,
Okay.
actually.
That'd be great.
Okay, I certainly will.
Would it be appropriate if we provided you with, based on these, not a discussion style, but, you know, just an email directly to you with any comments that we have?
Sure.
Like if we say, oh, she listed these birds, but maybe I've seen this out there too, that nests out there, maybe she could add that.
Absolutely.
Because then she would have some comments ahead of time.
Yeah.
If they're like
Yeah.
simple changes, she might be able to say, oh, I can incorporate that, but nothing, no group discussions, just say, hey, Julie, I saw
Yeah.
this typo.
Send that to me and I'll consolidate the comments.
Might be able to
and-
streamline our next meeting and
Yeah.
get it done,
Yeah.
and get it done
Yeah.
next meeting instead
Yeah.
of taking
That
another
would
Or
month.
you
be
could just
nice.
forward any emails you get right to her, so.
Yeah, but I
she
wouldn't
can-
want her getting 50, you know, well, there's not
She's not
15
gonna-
of them, but 9 different
I want to send you
emails.
5 emails about this.
Change for email.
I would be happy to consolidate them and just,
Yeah, that's what we do. You
just so
consolidate
that she could
comments.
say, oh, this is their concerns, and then, and like, to your point, streamline it so she knows what bullets we're most interested in.
Right, because we might duplicate, 4 of us might write the exact same thing.
Exactly.
yeah.
So,
Could we just reply individually back to you on this forward?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're getting close. We're really this much closer to the finish line.
We're gonna have a big celebration when that's out there.
Before the snow flies, that's the goal at this point. Okay, is there any other?
I don't know if I asked at the last meeting, do we have any brochures available that show all the conservation parcels in Newmarket?
No.
Okay, that was supposed to have been worked on like 6, 7
Not-
years ago.
We don't have.
We have a green
paper
one
copies,
thing.
do we?
Yeah.
I think we.
Of
There was
every
a
single
s-
piece of property?
There was a small one.
No,
and
but
I-
it was like a map and
Town
a.
properties,
yeah,
not
it
every
was-
conservation property.
Yeah.
Town conservation.
Yeah.
I know we have stuff online about,
We talked about that
Because,
we've talked about it.
with the rec
There's
department.
this one that just shows
formalized.
the conservation land.
can I see that?
Oh,
Because I
that's
know,
nice.
I mean,
I didn't
because
even
I'm
know that existed.
in and out of town
think
hall
that's
all
on
the
the
time, and there's
This is
always,
the one that's on the
Yeah.
website.
there's always people coming into the office when Kathy was there, and now with
Town
Wendy
website.
there,
That's where I got it.
asking, do you have any brochures on the town properties or conservation properties? And they got nothing to hand them, so.
What happened to
And I know
that
it's
green
been
one?
talked about for years.
Remember there was the green one? It was just a photocopied
Yeah.
trifold thing.
Yeah, That one
Wasn't
didn't
the
have a
greatest.
map, I don't think. Did it have a map?
I think it did, but it was like more or less,
Black and green.
yeah, really.
Black line on green paper,
Yeah.
Well, what we
Yeah.
could do is, what we should do actually is, now that we have that map, we might be able to put links in there to what Ellen's produced
Oh,
for
that's a
the
good
Cassock
idea.
Loisel,
Yeah.
what we already have for Wigan Farm. So at least people then could see a more detailed look, and the literature that we've gone to the trouble of producing.
Yeah.
And then the goal would be to extend that out to our other frequented areas. I think there was some thought that, yeah, we might not have every spot listed on there just because there's not a lot of active recreation in some of the spots.
Mm.
But certainly Wigan Farm, the Cassock Loisel, I'm sure Shopmar Park will want to have something, Neil Mill, you know, the most frequented ones. It would be nice if we could get enough
Yeah.
that far.
Because I thought the conservation several years ago was gonna have Ellen compile something. I don't know if she started anything and then stopped, or, I mean, we could ask her at that next meeting when we see her.
We did
Hey,
talk
6
about it.
years ago, you said you were gonna.
Well, we did talk about it many years ago. It was
Yeah.
always it was something that we constantly came up, and then that I think that evolved eventually over the years to become, we should just do an online type thing, and then I believe Ezra looked into that for us a little bit, and he had a way to do it, and I believe that no one picked up the task to do
Okay.
it. And so I think that's where that stayed.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a, I forget what it was called, but there's an online, there's like an app for your phone, and you could, it's like a parks
Oh,
thing, and the
okay.
trails, and then
Hmm.
you could like drop a pin basically
Is
on
that
the
something
parking
that the town IT guy could do, that Doug could do?
Well, there's a program that's
That's
actually run by the Cooperative Extension that is doing that across New Hampshire, and some conservation areas in some towns are starting to put their trail systems or lands on those, on
Okay.
this site, which is it is very much designed for the phone user.
Yeah.
And you can even like
Labels.
know where you are on the site and all that. And I did go to the workshop. It's just a time commitment
Yeah.
issue.
That's something that one of us or somebody would have to do it and do all the input, what GIS, GPS, what is it
Yeah,
called?
it's not that hard, but
Yeah.
yeah, it would take some time to do it.
Yeah.
But you know, it is a good
I
goal.
thought
and
Julia
we
was
should-
gonna do that.
Cookie crumb the whole place.
Let me get through goal 1 first. I mean, I actually wouldn't mind working on something like that with them. I have the paperwork from that workshop.
Right.
Um,
But I like the idea of just using
Yeah, this
that
is
map
really
right there,
nice.
and then you
Yeah, I think
click.
that's good.
I like
you
that too.
click on something and it just
I wish
pops
there was
up
a
with,
Yeah.
like description where to park.
It's exactly
do
what
they?
Durham has, yeah.
Yeah, they've had it for years. It's for several years.
And it's online, like on their town.
I haven't looked at it in a while,
Yeah.
but it was on there like maybe 4 years ago. You could click through all the different stuff out on Bay Road.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I looked at it when we did the surveying workshop over there.
So they've
pulled
probably
it.
expanded on it then.
I don't know. One thing that they do have that I really like is they also have online every single piece of land that's in the town, like every single lot.
I
You can look at
remember you
every
saying
single
that.
lot on their map and see if it's green, that's a lot that's conserved, and it may be a private easement or a public easement, and they've got that for the
Which-
entire town.
Which we have.
Newmarket has that,
Newmarket
yeah.
has an online GIS, but I don't know how often it's maintained, or if the town, do you know, Casey, if they maintain that anymore, the maps online?
I'm not sure. I'm looking at Durham's right now, but I haven't
it's
seen.
old.
I'm just checking out what Durham has. I'm not sure how often the town does it.
You know what I'm talking about, that Newmarket has? Like, there's a maps online GIS,
It's through the zoning
No.
board, isn't it?
and you
Yeah.
can click, well, it's, I don't know
Zoning
if
board?
assessing set it up, or planning set up, or who set
Planning,
it up, but
maybe.
I mean, it's been
That's
there
how
for
you get to it,
years,
through planning, I
many
think.
years. And
Yeah.
I don't,
Wouldn't
I
it?
think there are some subdivisions that don't show up on there.
And
I haven't
don't know
checked
that
that
we
for a
need
few years.
anything that detailed. I think we could expand on what we have.
But it would be,
Yeah.
that would be a nice addition to it, to that. If we
Yeah.
created something that,
It would be. You can see what your
you could actually click on the parcel and
If you go in the right
the,
direction.
but you can click on the parcel and find out who the owner is now, but.
Right.
it says town.
Yeah,
Really.
But-
So then
okay.
That's something. we
Alright.
can
Okay.
issue for.
Is there any other
And then
new
have it.
issues to bring up before we adjourn? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.